All right, good afternoon, everybody. This clock says 5:28 p.m., that one says 5:32, so how about we meet in the middle, and we're going to call our meeting to order at 5:30 p.m. This is Kennedale City Council special budget meeting, August 5th, 2025 at 5:30 p.m., and we are at City Council chambers. So we're going to start with our roll call. Madam Secretary, can I get a roll call?
Yes, sir. Mayor Brad Horton.
Present.
Place 1, Councilmember David Glover.
Here.
Place 2, Councilmember Thelma Kobek. Mayor Pro Tem and Place 3, Kenneth Michaels.
Here.
Place 4, Councilmember Chris Gary.
Here.
Place 5, Councilmember Jeff Narez.
Here.
All are present except Thelma.
All right, we have a quorum. Thank you, Madam Secretary. At this time, we're going to do our invocation and pledges of allegiance to the U.S. and Texas flags. I'm going to ask Councilman Navarez to lead us in our invocation, Councilman Michaels to lead us in our pledges. If you'll stand with us, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Please pray with, pray with me. Father God, we ask you to bless this meeting, Lord, and we ask you to give us our wisdom and guidance to further our city. We ask that you bless all of our volunteers and workers here that are in this room today. We also ask you to intervene in our state, Lord, and just give all of our leadership in our state some guidance and some wisdom. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. To the flag.
Thank you, gentlemen. So at this time, we're going to move to our public comment section, and the Kennedale City Council welcomes comments from the public. Those wishing to speak must sign in prior to the start of the meeting, or if anybody wants to speak now, we'll take your, just go ahead and sign in. Speakers may speak on any topic, whether on the agenda or not, and the Kennedale City Council cannot act upon, discuss issues raised, or make any decisions at this time. Speakers under citizens' comments shall observe a 3-minute time limit, and inquiries regarding matters not listed on this agenda may be referred to staff for research and/or possible future action by the board. Madam Secretary, do we have anybody wishing to speak?
Yes, sir. We actually have 2 speakers.
Okay.
They are signed up to speak on item 6A.
All right. And if anybody else, again, wants to speak, please go ahead and sign up now. If you want to call them.
Yes, sir. The first speaker then will be Alan Huckabee.
I think he's going to speak under the presentation section, if that's what you, okay.
Okay.
Okay, perfect.
That's okay. You're good.
Happens all the time, we're good. And next,
There are no other speakers willing to.
okay. Anybody else want to speak this time? Going once, going twice. We're gone. All right, so now we're going to move to presentations, and first, item A is Hutcherson Construction, Inc., proposal for YMCA remodel project, presented by Mr. Eric Tucker, CEO of Kennedale YMCA. Floor is yours, sir. The mic's on? I don't think his microphone's on.
I can talk, I got a YMCA camp voice, but you can put me on a microphone too. There it is, okay. All right, thank you very much. Can you all hear me fine? All right, well, on behalf of the Arlington Mansfield Area YMCA, we're very appreciative to be here tonight. Over the past couple of years, I've, worked and talked to many of you about the possibility of bringing the YMCA to Kennedale. And one of the things that we've done up until this point is we've had community needs assessments. We've talked to people in the public, families, seniors, schools, what have you. And there's been a lot of interest in the kind of programs and services that our YMCA can bring to the community. So tonight what I'm going to do, I'm going to talk briefly a little bit about who the YMCA is. Some of you have been through my presentations at Rotaries and chamber meetings before, so you can gloss over. I'm going to talk a little bit about what the YMCA brings to the community and to municipalities as far as serving the residents in our community. That's all really, really important stuff. So let's go here. All right. And to switch, what do I do here? Click? Oh, I got you. All right. Okay. So one of the things that some of you may not know is that the Y is actually not new to Kennedale. The Arlington Mansfield Area YMCA, which serves all of Arlington, Mansfield, and many of the zip codes right around, has been here since 1958. And already we've had formal arrangements and agreements with KISD, Fellowship Academy. We've been running sports programs in some of the parks here already. So we've had a footprint in the community, and we've had thousands of residents over the past several years, take part in programs at our South Cooper Y as well as some of our other locations. Even including, most recently, some of the swim lessons and summer camp programs that we've been doing at Hammock Creek once those were completed a couple of years ago, and as well as at our other facilities. Okay, I'm going to bring this up here if I can, sorry. Okay. Next, as I mentioned before, we've spent some time meeting with city, school, and business leaders, Superintendent Gee, many of you, City Manager Daryl, and the mayor and all of that. Y'all have been very welcoming as far as us conducting these community needs assessments, holding the data gathering sessions. We've done a lot of stakeholder interviews in the community. We also completed a market analysis to take a look at, does Kennedale have the strength? And that comes from everything from the sheer population, the numbers, household incomes, the kind of communities that need the YMCA. We take a really good look at this before we come into any kind of community. And in the case of Kennedale, all of the numbers are quite positive. Some of you that were on that committee, you saw that this would be an amazing location for a YMCA with the needs that are here. The community needs assessment was pretty extensive. The results of that, many of which you all have seen that, but some of the things that came back, and these are from community members. We did this survey 2 years ago where we asked people how the Y can serve the community, what are critical community needs, what are things that the community could benefit from. To summarize all that, the things that we heard in Kennedale more than anything was there needs to be a community hub for resources, for programming. We have heard over and over again that Kennedale residents would like to stay in Kennedale, if that's everything from eating dinner out, shopping, and then of course participating in a whole host of YMCA programs and services that are available there, particularly for youth and seniors. Those were the two that really came out. Youth development opportunities that go beyond the school day. Our YMCA currently in our Mansfield, which is our newest branch, and our Arlington locations, we host all kinds of after-school programs that include STEM education programs, guitar lessons, piano lessons, art programs, all of that, to really build on the enrichment programs that sometimes the schools don't put together. Access to health and wellness services, this shouldn't be a surprise. There are lots of places where people can go to get health and wellness type activities, but in Kennedale, we would call this in many ways a health and wellness desert as far as the places where people can go. Family and senior support were identified, and then if you've seen any survey in our area, transportation or lack thereof is always something that comes to the forefront. And sometimes around program access, it can be around affordability. And so you can have private, you could have private health clubs or schools or different sports leagues and all of those things. But one thing to keep in mind with the YMCA, we're a 501c3 charitable nonprofit. We are a charity. We raise over $500,000 a year to ensure that no one is turned away for the inability to pay for any of those programs and services. So that is a beautiful thing that you get when you've got a YMCA in your community. The picture that I put on here, this is a YMCA. It was my first executive director job out in Boise, Idaho. And I like to use this as an example because this was an example of what a true municipal and YMCA partnership can look like. In this case, in the year 2000, the city funded the aquatic center that was connected to a YMCA-funded traditional health and wellness center and youth development center. And it has currently, even to this day, 21,000 members, an Olympic-sized pool where they do Olympic time trials and all of that. And the basic premise was that city residents could always use the pool because the city funded the project, but YMCA members, if they were a member, could enjoy all of the benefits of the Y as well as the pool. This is one of over 1,000 municipal and YMCA projects around the country. And I won't go into details on all of them because they're all very different. That's not, of course, what we're asking for tonight, but I want to make sure that there's no one in the room that thinks, wow, this Y is really pretty interesting and progressive. They have an idea to approach a city about a partnership. It's truly what we do all over the community. A lot of times communities too, they're attracted to a few other things that make us, I think, a partner of choice. We're a trusted brand. We are 175 years old in the United States this coming year. We were founded in 1844 in London, England. So as you might imagine, we've been around a while. When you look at surveys across the world, our Y logo is always one of the 10 most identifiable because we're in 120 countries. Sometimes that we are the hospice center, we're the education resources like schools and all those kind of things. Sometimes we're disaster relief. It's always based upon what the needs of the communities are what they are. We're proven partners, I mentioned. One of the things that our friends over with the Dallas and Fort Worth Y enjoy, those for the communities that have a municipal partnership, those residents get access to 2,600 locations nationwide. And that's a big, big benefit for folks that travel or go on family vacation. I mean, we've got YMCA's at Disney World, downtown New York, wherever. People can go and get their health and wellness needs in those places as well. And then we have national resources and funding. It's very important to know that while the YUSA is in 10,000 communities in the United States, there are about 750 independent associations, of which ours is one, and they are at least locally, they're managed by a volunteer board of directors, okay? These are community leaders, they're school superintendents, police chiefs, city council members, people that come from the community that can help guide the strategic plan for the YMCA. Our national office provides resources, that come with the, charter requirements, like making sure that we criminally background check every single person that comes in our YMCA, which is something we of course do. Something, making sure that we have so many lifeguards on our pool decks and those kind of things. But generally speaking, we're owned and operated by the local community, okay? As far as municipal partnerships, this is where the real bang for the buck is. On average, and this is based upon last year's National Recreation and Parks Association, which is basically the trade organization for Parks and Rec with cities nationwide, they said the average return on every dollar spent for city services for seniors, youth programming, what you might think of as a Parks and Rec center, is about 28 cents. Okay. Now that's fine if you're a city that's committed those resources and you're okay to say, hey, you know what, we're going to subsidize like, Arlington does and Mansfield. We're going to subsidize $1 million to $3 million every year to ensure that residents are served. That's fine. A lot of cities decide to do that. Other cities either fully or partially look to an organization like the Y to take the burden off the taxpayer. And so generally speaking, we will come in, we will run those programs for the community. We don't turn anybody away for an inability to pay. That national resource that I mentioned earlier, we have literally tens of thousands of seniors in our Silver Sneakers, Silver and Fit, Amana, Blue Cross Blue Shield healthcare programs that don't pay anything to come in and use the YMCA. And we've got a bunch of them that come to programs right here in the city center that locally could utilize our services. Our YMCA model is self-sustaining in that way. Typically when cities partner with the Y, there may be an opportunity for a bond issue or taking over an existing facility, but that generally speaking is the municipality's contribution, and the Y takes over the operations because this is what the YMCA does. This is our business, so to speak, okay? So we get into big reach, small footprint. YMCA programs are anchored across the city already, as I've mentioned. Members access full amenities at the South Cooper Y. And I wanted to mention this because the way we're looking at Kennedale is how we look at a community that we're kind of taking our second step into, okay? So if you look at the Dollar General location, which we're going to be talking about specifically here in a minute, you look at that as a YMCA facility. It's just under 10,000 square feet. That is really the hub of what the YMCA would be in the community. But remember, we're also going to be running sports programs here. We are already, but expanding that in the sports fields, running more programs with the school district, okay? Partnering with the library, partnering in events like we've done already the past year to kind of create an entire YMCA, even if it's in pieces, okay, at least in the beginning. We just completed a 26,000 square foot YMCA in Mansfield. That's taken about 4 years to get to, but we didn't just go in and build it. What we did is we started with programs like we've done here. We opened up a 3,200 square foot satellite location. That was sort of that flag in the ground that we're here. And then we built support to eventually partner and build a large YMCA that we have now down. If y'all have seen where the new city hall's going on Regency Parkway, that's where our new YMCA location is. All right. Next, programs that meet community needs. I talked about senior and family wellness, the STEM, music, robotics, esports. Those are our most popular programs. When we did our community needs assessment, the #1 area for youth were non-athletic programs, okay? The community felt like, you know what, we're doing, and this is the broader community now, felt like we're doing a pretty good job offering soccer, volleyball, you know, all of the more physical programs, but we're not getting there with kids that may not be interested in a team sport, but they may be interested in doing something individual. So we added archery, we added martial arts and those kind of programs, as well as piano and guitar. Those are the kind of activities that we can bring to the Kennedale YMCA. You know, one of the, as far as the build out there is the traditional health and wellness space that we're proposing, as well as a workout space and those kind of things up front. Sauna, hydro massage, things that you associate with generally health and wellness on the adult side and the senior side. The community room is crucial, because having that multi-purpose space is where we can host lunch and learns. I know the library is busting at the seams, seniors can come over for programs there. We can have our esports leagues meet there at night, different kind of programs that, you know, really set it up as multi-purpose space that anybody in the community can utilize. Talked a little bit about after-school care. We do tutoring, summer camp, sports, swim lessons, teen programs. And the nice thing is that these programs are based upon, once again, what you all want us to do. We've been around since 1844 because we continually ask that question, and we're about to again here in a couple weeks. How can the YMCA serve the community? We'll have a fresh new report out for y'all coming up in October. So as far as the strategic city-centered location here, I intentionally, and it's been called a couple times now, thanks Paul, that I have the Mansfield satellite location in here, and that's intentional. And the reason that I wanted to demonstrate that is this was the first YMCA location that we had in Mansfield, okay? This was 3,200 square feet, okay? It did not have a community room. It was literally a TRX HIIT center is what we call it, with free weights and cardio and those kind of things. And we were successful enough there to take the next step to go build the bigger Y. It's important to have community support with a YMCA. You know, we're not a traditional business, we're a community organization. And so you can only grow as quickly as the community will allow it and support it. So in the case of the Dollar General store here, that's triple the size, okay? Nearly 10,000 square feet. And when our board and our operations team meet and we think about that, we say, wow, wouldn't it have been nice to have that in Mansfield right away? That is a huge, huge space. It's in a walkable, visible, centrally located area. You know, we're excited about the businesses here that we can partner with. We've already talked to Thrive Coffee about, you know, one of the things that you'll find with the YMCA, if you haven't seen it already, is if you come in the mornings, we are a senior coffee center. We are a community hub. A lot of them, let's be honest, they may not even work out, but they come in for the community coffee, they come in for some snacks, they hang out, and they build relationships with their fellow citizens. That was the first group back from COVID, were the seniors. The why is that important to them, okay? And so we can envision all kinds of great partnerships with the businesses here. And we estimate that we'll have 65,000 visits annually. So if you want to think about the city center here in the shopping area, you need an anchor tenant. And a Y would be considered an anchor tenant in this situation. We'd be driving several hundred cars into the area during the day and on the weekends as well. And these are folks that are health seekers, but they're also shoppers and they like to eat. And they'd rather be here in Kennedale doing those things And so we're very excited about the possibility with that. It's great for residents, great for business. We project 2250 members projected in the first year. That's over 200 visits a day. I mentioned 65,000 visits a year. We can triple the number of participants in sports, camps, non-athletic programs, senior activities. You know, even though a program may be taking place at the sports complex, they're still going to come in the Y most of the time to register or if they have questions. And it's going to drive business traffic and engagement, of course. So here's the investment that the YMCA wants to make, because we're not going to come with nothing as far as, money in hand and those kind of things. We bring an organization that's been here, as I said, since 1958 with staff and the resources. We already have a membership base in Kennedale, so this is a lot about expansion as well. Our contribution includes $500,000 for build-out. Now, build-out are a few different things in this way. First of all, if you've ever bought fitness equipment, even in the private market, or even if you go down to the mall and you buy something, it is expensive, okay? The kind of equipment that we want to put in Kennedale, we're not coming in, pulling stuff off the floor at an older branch or whatever. We're talking between $300,000 and $325,000 just in equipment, okay? People demand the top of the line. All the electronics now, the fitness trackers and all of that. So that's got to be part of it. There's also basic fixtures and build out that come with the YMCA. We got to put a logo on the building. We've got to have computers at that front desk. We've got to have staff. And we know that day one, we're not going to have everybody we need to cover every dollar we're spending, okay? So if you look at what we want to invest, it's about $500,000. The community, we're asking for $775,000. This is virtually all related to the build out of the facility. Okay, that will enable us, first and foremost, and this is really, really important, okay? We could come in and spend that money on that footprint. I mean, we could do that, but we would have to triple the amount that we'd be charging for residents, okay? And if you all are looking at this from a serving the community perspective, and even those that are vulnerable in this capacity, okay? This is why it's so important to have your investment as well, okay? Public-private partnership, we've talked about no ongoing city costs are anticipated with this model. Once that building is ready to go, it's ready to go, okay? We are the operators. And that also means that if we don't do a great job, we are the ones having to pay for that not great job situation, okay? That's also very important to know. And then we do local fundraising to defer costs as well, okay? So we have a whole fundraising department. Their responsibility is to go out and raise that $500,000 a year that I talked to you about to ensure that no one's turned away for an inability to pay, okay? And finally, partnering with the Y in Kennedale, it really does offer a unique opportunity. It's serving the community's growing demand for these types of services. We know that Kennedale is growing. More rooftops going in, demands on the school. We want to attract the best people that we can here and keep them here in the community. That's incredibly, incredibly important. And we look forward to the potential here and hopefully the partnership to really finally in Kennedale, and this is speaking on our YMCA's perspective and viewpoint, is to seal the deal, to really be here in a community that has been asking for us for the last couple of years, and now that we've got a real willing group around the table, very interested in making it happen, okay? Really appreciate y'all. You have any questions? Hope I didn't go too long there. I got the big ones out, right? No taxpayer dollars, charitable nonprofit, 501c3, great people. Any questions?
Two quick questions, I hope. Would existing Arlington YMCA members be able to use their memberships in the Kennedale YMCA, or would that be an additional membership?
No, they would be able to use it like they utilize the other facilities.
Yeah, Cooper
Reciprocity,
now,
it goes both ways. But, keep in mind that, in the case of our association, so you sign up, you can pay the prices that we charge for, sports and membership and all those kind of things. But then if people want to drive to Fort Worth or Dallas, those branches are also included in membership. So city residents are going to get to go to the McDonald Y, Town North, I mean, you name it, Hood County, Glastonbury, all that, in different parts of the community. So, yeah, so there is reciprocation there with that, for sure. Generally speaking, though, people stay within their home branch location. So most of the people you're going to see there on a given day are going to be Kennedale folks.
Sure. And then my second question, you mentioned that if the city didn't fund the $775,000, that you had to triple the rate for members. Do you have an idea of what that rate will look like and what it could or would be tripled?
Yeah, so the way to look at this is we've got several different rate categories, okay? We've got a monthly membership rate that we charge for families, single-family households, seniors, adults, youth, teens, et cetera. We also have annual contract versions of those prices as well, okay? So it's a little complicated in that it's about what people pick. But right now, a family can come in for the regular rate, and it's $95 a month. That's month to month, there's no contract, and that includes everything. That's the hydro massage, all the fitness classes, all of the youth programs that we offer, that's Saturday night childcare, that's all of those things. An adult rate on an annual contract rate, for example, is $24 a month, or $29 depending if you're above 25. And so it depends on, it depends on what category you're looking at, as well as what program you're looking at as well. Yeah, we anticipate offering the annual contract rate is a month-to-month for Kennedale residents. That's what Daryl and I had spoken about. So that would be a lower rate than what other YMCA members pay. But they're local residents here. The city has come in and made a commitment to the organization and to the partnership, and that changes things.
So just to kind of clarify, if the adults are paying $20 a month, $29 for a yearly contract, but it's $29 a month, it would be closer to $90 a month if the city didn't chip in.
If it was an adult, for instance, then it would go to $49. So in that case, it would be doubled. But it depends on the category and how many people are in the family and all those kind of things.
Okay.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to figure out is if the city didn't put any money into it, or they put an increased amount, what would the rate go up to for the residents themselves?
So for instance, on the adult rate, that one would go from $49 right now, which is month to month, or $29 on an annual contract. That's available for everybody. But in the case of a Kennedale resident, that $29 would be a month-to-month rate, okay, instead of paying the $49. So, yeah.
Other questions?
Anything else? All right, appreciate y'all. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
All right, so now we're going to move to items for individual consideration, discussion, and/or action. And we're going to discuss and take action to allow the city manager to execute a contract for design build services with Speed Fabcrete and Callahan and Associates for the City of Kennedale Sports Complex renovations. Mr. City Manager, did you want to start, or do you want me to?
Actually, I want to punt to the city attorney to help in the contract description of what we're looking at.
I'll see if I can handle the punt. There's sort of a two-step process that we're going through here. First process is actually to select the contractor that the city is going to negotiate with. And then by your action tonight, you're authorizing the city manager to engage in the negotiations to actually enter into a contract along the lines that you've negotiated. At this point, at that point, if you can't get a contract negotiated with the selected contractor, then you would go to the next qualified respondent and just go from that step. So what the city manager needs tonight is authorization to go forward with negotiations on the contract.
So just to confirm, the agenda here says execute a contract, not negotiate a contract. So which one are we doing? We given the ability to negotiate it and execute it before he comes back to the council or whatever body?
That is authorized by the posting, but that'll be obviously up to you how you make your motion.
Okay.
To kind of go back several months, we put out our RFQ proposal out to the open. Speed Fab Creek, Callahan had come in, and for what we had to choose from, Callahan with their design, preliminary design is the reason why we choose Speed Fab Creek to come into the design and build concept. They're local, they're willing to come in and be a part of the community. They've been a part of the community in the past, and we believe that relationship is going to continue to grow. That was the main reason, obviously, for not only for that, but their work that they continue to do. They have built other projects within the city in the past, and their workmanship has been to our standard.
Now, that's the thing. My question has nothing to do with Fab Creek or Callahan Associates. I'm 100% on board with that aspect. What I'm talking about is, if I remember correctly, months ago, we budgeted a certain amount of money for this project. What, a little over $1 million? Something like that, right around $1 million. I just want to know that, I mean, if y'all negotiate and things start increasing and executing a contract, you're not coming back with an executed contract at $1.5 million or something like that.
What the plan is from this point, once we make a choice of who we're moving forward with, my intention is to come back on the 19th with a contract indicating to give approval for them to move forward with a design. At that point, it's allowing Speed Fab Creek to give us a 50% design. At that time, he'll tell us, hey, this is what we're estimating the cost for the sports complex.
Okay.
The numbers have not been discussed. It's nothing more than I'm asking to be able to get with Speed Fab Creek and come up to a design to bring it back to you, hopefully in August the 19th, to say, hey, here's a contract. We would like to move forward with Speed Fab Creek for design and build. And that will give them the opportunity to give us 50% build out. This is what we're projecting this project to cost. So on the 19th, you should be able to see something or a contract allowing them to move forward with.
Okay.
With that, there's still no cost to build it. That will come in after they give us a 50% evaluation.
Mr. City
Is
Manager,
that right?
question for you. So this was part of the bond for 23 for the $3 million bond for improving this. I know you're saying we don't have design estimates, but we have an idea. The architect would have some idea. Do we feel like this is going to come in anywhere near 3 million, or are we going to have to go back and say we need another 3 million to finish it? Or do we think the original $3 million bond will cover this, or are we going to have to go back and ask for more?
The way I look at it, we have 3 million to build a sports complex, and that's what we'll do. We can come in, and Callahan and Fab Creek can come in and give us a $6 million project. Out of that 6 million, obviously, we only have 3 million to spend. So we have to come back and we'll reevaluate what's being presented to us and pick and choose what we want. That's the only options we have, unless you're wanting to go out for a second CO or a GO to go beyond that 3 million.
No, I certainly wasn't suggesting that. What I was, with the design we have from Callahan, was this kind of built out or designed out with the $3 million price tag in mind?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
I have asked for the moon, and it gives us opportunity to pick and choose what we believe that facility needs to look like, the standard we want, and what the public's asking for as a whole. You have a preliminary design that's in front of you now, and that's ultimately is what they have presented for me to have at least a visual, not only for myself, but everybody on the council as a whole. So that's ultimately is what we're looking at. There's other things that we can add, new lighting, new fencing, pavilions, a park area, there's a lot of other options that we have. Not to say all that's going to fit in 3 million, but if it does, we have options to pick from. It gives us something that we can say, yeah, we like that, or we don't.
Sorry, so this design doesn't include lighting that we're looking at now?
It does include lighting. We have lighting now.
Okay.
Yeah, we have
You mentioned
lighting.
lighting. I was thinking that seems like a kind of a starting point for a sports field. My concern, so what we have here is the $3 million, or this is the moon plan, and we have to now start to cut away at this to get down to 3 million? That's my question, I guess.
Well, first, I just need approval to be able to negotiate with Speed Fab Creek on design build. Once I have the approval to move forward with that, a contract will be generated to give them approval to move 50% of the design. At 50% of the design, they have indicated they can anticipate what the final cost would be. And that final cost is what I will be able to bring back to you to make that decision. How do we move forward? Right now, we don't know. I can ask for the moon, or I can just say, hey, just go out there and clear it off and put some lines on it. But obviously, we don't know what our options are, and they're going to bring our options to us to make that choice.
Okay.
I just need approval to negotiate with them.
So going back to Councilman Gary's question, we are authorizing you to go find out what it will cost to get the design started so we can get an estimate. This is just for the design. Do we have an idea what that design fee is going to be, or that's what you got to go negotiate?
We have an idea, but we'll be able to go in more detail to find out what the cost associated is.
All right. I guess my last comment on this, if this thing is going to be, if what we're looking at is going to wind up being $6 million, we have to cut it down, and we're right back to where we started. I would say just forego the design completely. If the design's going to be $100,000 to find out it's going to be $6 or $9 million to build, then we know we're not going to do that. Then why do the design in the first place? So that's what I'm trying to get an idea of what the design estimate is going to be also.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we don't know that yet.
To that point, that's what we're going to ask them to do.
Okay.
Gentlemen, did you want to come and speak?
I'm Alan Huckabee with Callahan and Freeman Architects. And just to give you a little clarification on what we've been talking about, the preliminary design that we have done was absolutely taking into account the $3 million or less budget. What we have done is provided a drawing that lists out a lot of things. We've provided a narrative list of those things plus more things. And we know that once that's priced out, you're going to make some choices. And so our job is to put those prices in front of you. That's what Speed Fab Creek will do based on the design that we put together. But we're not going to exceed your budget. That's our goal anyway, unless you come back to us and say, well, we would really like to have something that exceeds your budget, then we will, but it's because you ask. We won't do it. We're going to bring to you what fits into your budget, because we already have it listed out on the drawings that you have, plus the narrative that we provided, that there's, I use the word shopping list. You know, we're going to, if you have enough money for lights, we'll put new lights on the existing poles. If you have enough money for new lights on new poles, we'll do new lights on new poles. But there's ways to provide functionality and hopefully a beautiful park that's within your budget. That's our goal. And we've provided the city manager with some fees. We provided them with a process that takes just to that 50% level, because that's actually when Speed Fab Creek can give you a guaranteed maximum price for the project. And that will be based on a scope of work that is well-defined, and you'll be able to have all the choices that you want to make. Hopefully that helps to clarify it a little bit.
Sure.
Hello, my name is Mitch Honzik. I'm with Speed Fab Create, and I just wanted to address kind of some of these questions that are coming over from this direction about the contract and what we're proposing. And I've got to ask, has everybody seen the contract, or is that still on administration side? Okay, so what we have is just a typical design-build, two-part contract, two-phase contract. And so what will happen in the initial phase, and that's what we're asking for tonight, and I think Daryl's asking for, is approval of phase one, which in that phase one is basically just a design contract. It's not a construction contract. We're not building anything. We're not getting to that point. So once y'all review that contract, and I'm assuming the attorneys looked at it and what have you not, there is a fee schedule to take the construction drawings to 50%. And there are two steps in that process. What we're going to do is we'll start out with the initial design that we've got right now, and with staff's input, we're going to carry the design a little bit further. And probably, and correct me on this, in the 20, we're schematics, because we're going to do preliminary engineering, and there's going to be some stop and go points. That's where I'm going with this.
Yeah, right now, we've done what you would call schematic design. So we've drawn the concept plans, the concept elevations of the building, and the ballparks, or the ball fields, and all of those components. The next step is what we would call design development, where we will actually engage with some engineers, come up with the utilities that need to be brought to the project, some of the other infrastructural needs that are part of the project. And at each phase along here, Speed Fab Group will be looking at the pricing and budgeting so that we can advise you on what fits in the budget. And I think that's what Mitch is trying to say, is that at any point in time, you could say, no, that's it. We're not going to do any more. Or we can say, do this, choose along the way, and we'll work with you to make those choices and design the project to fit your budget and your desires.
And I'm going to just elaborate on that just a little bit more as far as this contract goes, taking us to 50% design. Again, somewhere before we get to that 50% design, we're going to stop and evaluate all the requests, all the dreams, and put a preliminary budget on that and say, are we going down the right path? Because we don't want to design something all the way to 50% that is not achievable. Again, you asked the question earlier, do we think we can do all that we're talking about for the $3 million project? Yes. Can we do better than that? That's what this story is going to tell us. We're going to take a baby step at first, list all the wants and desires, glean off the drawings that we already have, and establish a budget before we get to 50% design. So I'm going to come up with a preliminary budget at that time and say, guys, are we going down the right path? And if you guys say, yeah, just keep rolling, because we have a contract in place. I mean, we can't do any of this till we get this contract in place. You guys say, y'all are going to do the design, get rolling. But say we get $20,000 into the design and we do a preliminary, and what we've got to do is look at the total scope of the project and figure out where do we stop that. But somewhere before we get to that big number, we're going to stop, establish values, discuss the budget at that time and say, yeah, we're going down the right path, keep going to 50%. Once we get to 50%, what that's going to allow us to do is bring in the civil engineers. And that's the big question on this project is, what are the grades out there? What do we have to change? You know, it's easy to figure out a cost for a restroom. It's not easy to figure out how much dirt has to be moved, how do we level it, what do we have to bring in as far as utility lines and things of that nature. And that's what the civil drawings will help us do. And once we get to that 50%, then the rest of the picture gets real clear for us, and we can actually go to a hard contract at that time. We can say, look, this is what it's going to cost you to build everything that you've asked for. And if you want us to proceed to the next phase, that's a secondary contract that comes into play at that time. And what we're saying is we're willing to lock in, and we'll have enough information by that time to give you a guaranteed maximum price on the total project. So once we complete the 50% drawings, I'll bring back a contract saying I will do it all for X dollars. And we're off to the races, or you say that doesn't work. and we go back to the drawing board. Does that kind of clear up what this first contract's about, or have I left anything out?
It does clear it up. Thank you for that.
Okay, yes, sir.
Other comments, questions?
I'll make mine really quick, Mr. Mayor. Daryl, just a few things. You know, I'm excited about this of all people around here. I just don't want us to lose sight in a couple things while we're in this process. One, we've had issues in the past with theft of wiring. So we always try to implement internet over there so we can do wireless cameras or whatever we were trying to do before we shut it down. So I just want to make sure the security part of it is still up to par. Oh, I thought that was in my head. Yeah, it's an ego thing. And so I know you're aware that you were captain at the time when we were having those issues. So I just want to make sure that when we talk about infrastructure, we're talking about network infrastructure or wireless infrastructure for camera infrastructure. I'm pretty confident that we can book this entire year. Between private clubs and YMCA, I have no doubt we're going to book this. Parking, so make sure that we have enough spaces. We had originally talked about nuking the Little League field and making that extended parking. That'll also allow food trucks and stuff for Saturday events. That was an idea if we need to cut things. That's probably where I would go first. I also don't want to do any shortcuts. They were talking about saving poles, saving lights kind of thing. And you and I have been out there a million times. That thing needs to be leveled and it needs to be fresh. So I just want to make sure that we're not just like, oh, we'll level it here, but keep this patch kind of thing. That whole entire area needs to be leveled. And that's my 2 cents on it. But it looks good.
You know, and just for the record, I would reiterate that, you know, the preliminary work that's been done has been done with the budget in mind. So, you know, just for the record, so just want to make sure everybody's cool with that. So, are there any further questions, comments?
Correct me if I'm wrong, we've already pulled this money and that's been in an investment account this whole time, correct? That's correct. And is that investment go back to this particular project, or we already pulled it for other things?
It stays with the project.
So there's a little bit more than 3 million there, basically,
That's
a little
correct.
wiggle room. All right, thank you.
If there are no other questions or comments, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to take action to allow the city manager to execute a contract for design build services with Speed Fab Creek and Callahan Associates for the City of Kennedale Sports Complex renovations.
Do we have a second?
I think we agreed we would need to change what's written on the agenda slightly. Is that what the city attorney said earlier? Instead of saying execute a contract, it was allow the city manager to negotiate a contract for design build services? Is that the proper?
I think he needs to execute the design phase of the there's going to be 2 contracts. The first one is this first phase of the design. You're allowing him to negotiate and execute that contract that's been discussed. Then there will be a second contract brought later, assuming you can get it within the budget, get all your wants and wishes addressed, and then you would come back with a second actual build contract.
But we don't know how much we're authorizing the city manager to approve.
Well, I will say that's up to council. If y'all want to place a limitation and require him to bring it back, you certainly, that's within your power to do that.
Is it $100,000 for the design fee? Is it 50? I know your limit's 25 right now, but I don't know what I'm authorizing to approve on the design side.
Up to 50%. So we'll bring back. Basically, this contract is for design. It allows Speed Fab Creek to come to a design. Yes, there is a fee associated with that, but it's already approved. The project as a whole, through the budget or through the GO, is to be able to move through the project with it. So at one point that we get to the design factor, we'll bring that back to you for actual build. Correct?
So I guess I'm not comfortable with this, not knowing what I'm authorizing you to go. I don't know what the design fee is going to be. I've seen other, not this project, but other projects where design fee is $1 million. If you come back and say it costs $1 million to design this, and now we spent $1 million on the three, that's going to be a problem. So that's my heartburn here.
Yeah.
I need to know if we need to say, well, approve you to go negotiate the design contract and then bring that back for approval next time, we can do that. But that's where my heartburn is. I think Councilman Gary had the same concern earlier.
Yeah. We can definitely do that on the 19th. At least give us, well, I'm looking at, you give me authorization to negotiate with it, we can bring that price back. But they may need the opportunity to look at to see what that cost could be. Right.
So just to confirm, I'm sorry, Daryl, you said something about 50%. So are you wanting a motion to 1.5 for you to spend if needed for that? Is that what you're
Yeah, do you have a,
clarifying?
it's not in there.
Sorry, gentlemen, can you turn the mic on so that it's recorded?
I believe we sent all those documents over. There's a preliminary plans contract or the 50% design contract sent to the city. And I was under the impression or the assumption that that had gone to the city attorney for review. So maybe something was lost in communication somewhere.
If the number's like 25,000 for design, that's fine. I have a problem with that. But
If y'all can excuse me for 10, 15 minutes, I can run back to my office and find a copy of that. And I'm going off memory, so don't shoot me. Well, I was thinking it was in the $80,000 range is what's ringing
Mayor,
the
if you want
bell.
to take a short break, I can find it.
Why don't we just take a break? And obviously, we do have a motion on the table. We'll take it at 6:20. Let's pause and let the city manager have a chance to go see if he can pull that up. All right, it is 6:34. We're going to go ahead. Councilman Navarez.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to withdraw my motion at this time so we can have further discussion and smooth this out.
All right, thank you, sir. Noted, motion withdrawn. Mr. City Manager?
Okay, based on the contract that was presented by Speed Fab Creek, 50% of the design will be the 87,500. That will get us to the point, be able to contract further for build. So if I can get the authorization to spend 87,500, once we get that authorization, Speed Fab Creek will do 50% of the design. And at that point, they will be able to give us another contract detailing exactly what we're spending of a max of $3 million.
Questions, comments?
I glanced briefly again at that contract that we have, and it does limit them to a $3 million budget. In other words, city will pay $87.5 to get a 50% design for a project that will cost $3 million. Did I say that correct? Okay. I would suggest, because it's that contract, I'm not 100% sure that I fully reviewed it. I would suggest that you add subject to legal review to any motion if you're so inclined to authorize the city manager to enter into that contract, and give me at least a day or two to go back over it and review that contract.
Mr. Huckabee, did you?
If I may, I just wanted to say that the design fee is part of the overall contract. So your budget's $3 million, that includes the design fee. So we're designing within that to bring the full project in under that price.
Any other questions, comments? Then I will.
Thank you. I appreciate the homework there to pull up the file number. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Then I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to allow the city manager to execute a contract for $87,500 to design build services with Speed Fab Creek and Callahan Associates for the City of Kennedale Sports Complex, subject to legal review.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? And for the record, all opposed with the like sign. Madam Secretary, the motion passes unanimously 4-0. Or 4-0, sorry. No. It's like sorry, I got sports on the mind. All right, so that will bring us to our work session, 2026 City of Kennedale budget. Mr. Horton.
All right, good evening. So the plan is to do a quick introduction. I'll discuss the changes from FY25 that were on the staff report. I'll go into the revenue piece of the general fund, provide some background on that, and then we'll just go through each general fund department, really just stopping for questions, and then we'll do the same when we get to the funds. So I don't plan on explaining a lot without there being a question up front, but of course I'll stop for questions. I have a feeling this could drag on for a bit, and I don't want to just talk for the sake of hearing myself speak.
Rangers and Yankees start in about 20 minutes, just so you know.
Okay, 20 minutes it is. One thing I do want to start off with, if we look at this page, this is just it's a mandated disclosure, and it states, gives an amount to be raised from last year. Well, late this morning, we received a new no revenue rate from the county, and this will be updated to show that there is an increase. Now, this is the rate that we have in front of you on the budget. So if the rate changes, obviously this will change some. But the increase would be only $58,138 or 0.68% instead of 106, 107 or 1.25. So I do want to point that out, but of course this can fluctuate based on a change in rate. Here's our rate comparison. Just right now, what we're presenting is a property tax rate of 0.6925 per $100. Just fund summary. Okay, so the general fund, you can see our different revenue categories, so I'll just explain those briefly. The property tax, it's current year, prior year, penalties, and interest. Sales tax is general sales tax. We do get a small amount of mixed beverage, and I'm on page 12. It says 12 on the bottom of the page. And in our sales tax, we do have some interlocal sales tax that come in. That is the property that we share with Arlington that includes Walmart. Licenses and permits, so if you just think of community development and everything that department does, that those land and licenses and permits, fines and fees, it's franchise fees, court-related fines and fees. Charges for services, that's primarily ambulance fees. We do get some fire fees that are as well. And open records requests to an extent. Next up with intergovernmental, most of that is our agreement with the Kennedale ISD for SROs. We also receive funds from the Auto Theft Task Force, and our county fire and ambulance funds all land in that intergovernmental. In all other, primary source by far is investment income. We also have gains from equipment sales. We've had 2 auctions that we've placed our gains from there. Rental income, miscellaneous income, and transfers in. Those are all from funds within the city. So if you back up to page 10, we have what's called a common cost analysis. That shows transfers between funds. Our revenue by source, one thing I didn't point out, I'll point out now, this property or the sales tax, part of the large jump here is that 380 agreement with Quick Roofing and QR Purchasing. That also is the main driver on non-departmental, where you see a 90% change. So I'll touch on this again when we get to non-departmental, but we're budgeting that to really be a net zero. The 380 agreement was designed to drive funds to the EDC. So we'll talk about that a little bit when we get to the EDC, which will be in 19 minutes if we're going to do the Rangers-Yankees on time. So that being said, our sales tax compared to last year, you do see it takes a larger piece of the pie. Property tax is reduced. And then expenditures by department, you can see police and fire, they're still pretty close, and those are by far our biggest sources of expenditure. So hopping into city administration, this is a new department. We're consolidating the city manager's office, the city secretary, and human resources all into one department. So that consolidates 2 departments that were 1 FTE each, all under city administration. The numbers presented for FY24, actual FY25 budget and projection, and the 26 budget are all prepared as if this department has existed during that time. So we just combined all the 3. I'm going to pause for questions at the end of each department. So do we have any questions or comments for city administration?
I do have a couple of questions. So we did for the fire and police department last year, we did, I believe, the step plans, the increases to bring them up to competitive markets or whatever. But in your comment, and then looking at this, they didn't really change that much. I guess police went up roughly a little less than 100, fire up 60 grand. Is that the effect? Is that the only effect from that, or are those bumps taking place yet?
The step plan for FY25 for our current fiscal year, the biggest increase on that was that one time, the step up, the market adjustment. After that, it's 2% every step that an officer or firefighter goes through, but it's based on service date rather than fiscal year. So the way we budget, that's a little bit different because we don't just do a flat 2%, because that 2% for the officer might hit in the second month of the fiscal year. It could be the 10th or 11th. But the step plan in that sense, it's in place, and the biggest impact of that was felt in the current fiscal year.
Okay.
And it is budgeted for those increases.
Okay. Okay, and then another question, I don't know if this is jumping ahead because you didn't mention the net change in fund balance. that went down dramatically, about 800 grand. Is that our cash reserves for emergencies? Isn't that what that is?
The days of fund balance, so that we're at 96 days, and this is assuming we don't make any changes, and I'll get into a couple things, and
Okay.
Daryl may have a couple comments along this as well, but our policy states that our reserve needs to be at 17%. That's our floor. If we're looking at days of fund balance, that's 62.05 days, so we'll call it 63 days.
17% is 63 days?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And then if we're looking at 25%, which is the verbal goal, and that's what Mr. Hull wants us to stick to, that's 91.25 days. So even if we make zero changes to this, to the 26 budget and the 25 projections hold, we'll have 96 days of fund balance at the end of FY '26, which still would stay just above our 25.
I just know that every month when you give your thing, you talk about, oh, we've got 180 days of net reserve or 167 days of cash reserve.
Yes, sir. The cash cycle for us, it's not consistent month over month. Even with this budget, 47% of our revenue is property tax driven. We receive that in December, a whole lot in January, and then some in February. So we see a big spike in February in our fund reserve, and then it starts trickling down. So it's been trickling down slowly the past few months.
Correct.
Then really, November should be the lowest we ever have in reserve.
And then it goes back
October, November, and then we start seeing the property tax come back in. So this is indicating on really 10/1 of '26, we'll have 96 days. So that's, of course, assuming there are a couple assumptions that we'll adhere to this budget, we'll spend everything that's on the budget, and the 25 projections all hit. But if you look at 25, and now this will be the only tangent I get on for a bit. If you look at 25, our budget, we were actually, if you consider the amendment, our net change in fund balance was a $816,000 reduction. Our projections right now are a $647,000 gain. So that's through an increase in revenue from what we had budgeted for. We've taken in a lot more than what we expected. We've also spent less than what we budgeted. So smart targeted spending along with an increase in revenue are really flipping what we had planned to do in '25.
So where did the increased revenue come from?
It's primarily in sales tax.
Okay.
You'll see that difference in the sales taxes.
Okay.
Yeah, if you see, we're projected almost a $500,000 or $470,000 increase in our sales tax.
So if something comes up, and maybe I'm jumping a point too, but if something comes up, let's say 3 months, we want to go request a bond through one of our 4 or 5 banks or financial institutions, the amount of money, the amount of days we have in reserve, does that hurt it?
We're still above our policy. So one of the big factors is, are we operating within our policy? Still operating, we're exceeding what our written policy is.
8%.
And based on what we're looking at tonight, we're exceeding even our verbal policy that we try to adhere to our absolute best, and we haven't faltered yet. But our days in fund balance operating within the policy is important. The other factor is what are we spending? If we are dipping into reserve, are these capital costs that are one-time costs that are targeted, or are they more operating based? Without getting into a whole lot of detail immediately, most of these are one-time capital type costs. So if you don't want to be negative, if you say we can't operate within the budget, just getting by day to day, that doesn't look good for bond agencies. But if we're looking at some targeted capital purchases and that's what's bringing in our reserve, but we're staying within our policy, that's a better picture to paint.
Okay. Thank you, John.
Yes, sir. And while we're talking about benefits, just a couple things I want to touch on that I just skipped over that affect everyone. What we've budgeted for is a 3% pay increase for civilian staff. So that's all the staff that aren't subject to the step plan that you just mentioned, Councilman Gary. The other item I want to point out that I didn't write on this staff report, our benefits currently on this budget, we predicted a 5% increase. Those figures are still in negotiation, and we're expecting an increase of less than 5% on those.
Do you know when those negotiations will be done?
We'll have a presentation for you at our next meeting on the 19th. I expect the negotiations to be finished this week, but we won't present those to you until the 19th.
I just didn't know if it was months from now or whatever.
Yes, sir. We have to do those along with our budget. So we'll handle the budget. We'll ask for the budget to be adopted on the same night that we do our benefits presentation.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. All right, folks, next is mayor and council. Have any questions, comments on this department? Okay. Our municipal court. One thing I'll point out, just with several of the departments, you'll notice that there's an increase in overtime. That's event-driven, city event-driven, having our staff work on the various events that we host throughout the year. Okay, I'm going to move on to what I feel is the best department in the city.
Can I ask you one question?
Yes, sir.
Did you go over page 7 yet? I'm sorry. If you did, I
We can go back.
7. Okay.
So
Well,
the expenditure summary by fund, is that what we're talking
yeah,
about?
just, I mean, and then, of course, you've got your revenue summary by fund, but it looks like, the public works, stormwater, water, sewer fund increased by almost 10 million. Of course, we got $7 million in more revenue. So did that come from a different fund, or is that just, that's a $3 million difference there? So just was wondering.
I can explain that in a way that'll make a lot more sense when we get to those funds.
Okay, my bad.
There's some accounting, I don't want to say tricks, but there's some accounting treatments that go to what qualifies as revenue and expense on those, that it'll make more sense if I can have that whole fund in front of us.
Sorry about that.
No, it's fine. Gives me a chance to mention finance again. Okay, do we have any questions for the finance department? Okay, police. Going to fire. Community development.
Just get fired.
Director Horton, I've got a quick question for you. For the percentage changes that are listed here on the right sides, is that, and I didn't do the math ahead of time, is that the percentage change between FY25 budget and FY26 budget, or is that the difference in FY25 projected?
It's a budgetary increase. It's not based on the projection.
When you get to the end, I do want to kind of talk about what the total budget versus projection looks like, but I don't want to interrupt your flow here. Thank you.
We can go back to it. So like on the general fund summary, is that where you want me to go back to?
Well, it's kind of getting to the whole, the proposed expenditures are 46 million, give or take, but we're nowhere near that in terms of spend for FY25. There's like what, a 13, I think I did the $13 million difference between what was budgeted in 25 versus what was not projected. So I'm not concerned. I just want to elaborate on why there's such a big gap in the 25 budget, and do we expect to see the same gap in the 26 budget?
Kind of the same answer I gave Councilmember Gary. A lot of, when we're looking at these summaries by funds and we're looking at total numbers, it makes more sense when we go fund by fund. A lot of that gap is, don't want to say a delay, but we projected capital project spending that we just didn't reach. Like some of it in the water sewer fund with the interceptor project and so forth. So that's a big driver in that gap. is us pushing spending that we initially thought would be into 25 that we're actually going to have to push to the front end of 26.
Okay, and that's totally fine. I was just more curious, I don't want to over budget into 26 if we don't need to, but it's not like we're just pushing
Well,
it forward.
one thing I do want to point out, just like I did with the EDC, what we're asking for in a couple weeks is spending authority. We're not asking for spending obligations. So if we can come in cheaper, or if the project needs to get moved to another fiscal year, whatever the case may be, we're not looking to spend that money just for the sake of spending. So when you look at the general fund, some of the spending or lack thereof is either finding a cheaper source or being able to find an alternative way to complete the mission. But looking at everything as at the whole city level, at the citywide level like we're doing, we can get a little bit lost versus if we look at each fund separately and identify the gaps there. And it helps me to have everything in front of me rather than winging it. So I'm going to make a note. We're going to have to spend some time on our enterprise funds. Do we have any questions or comments about our fire department's budget?
Just to point out, this doesn't include the ladder truck. That'll be a separate bond, correct? Okay.
Okay, with that, I'll move into community development. Okay. On the senior center, displaying that right now. Okay, I'm on page 26 for the library. And a quick plug for our website. We have this on our city website, and if you use the bookmarks feature on the Adobe file, it really helps for a quick navigation. Communications, any questions or comments for the communications department? Okay, heading over to Public Works.
So in Public Works, I have a question about the project, is it a project manager, project oversight person, I guess it is? It's not really named on here, I guess.
Project manager.
We call it project manager. It's on the personnel or positions chart on page 29.
So we don't currently have that position, haven't had it in the past.
That's correct.
This will be a completely new position.
Okay, so they'll be between Christian and Stan, I guess,
Correct.
kind of between them. So what does Stan do? He's actually the on-site,
Supervisor.
operates on-site, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Is this a position that most cities have?
Correct. Yes.
So why haven't we had it all these, I mean, could have been preventing us from some of these public work issues that we've had, you know?
We've never needed it before this point. We haven't really had a decade where we did a lot of updates around here in the city. This is the first time in the last 3 years we have multiple projects going at the multiple different areas. We have the fire, we have the sewer, we have the new water towers, we have new streets going, we have streets coming.
Correct.
We have streets projects and bridge projects that could take 10 years. And so we just came to a point where we need it now.
Thank you, Jeff.
And a lot of times, we normally just kind of contract it out. The last time we used an engineer for a site project was the Safe Routes. So we just approved a contractor to do that for us.
We won't have we won't have the need for a contractor on these projects from now on.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Not necessarily. So a lot of times, one, it depends on the project itself.
Details and whatever.
Yeah,
Correct.
for instance, if we're doing a water or sewer line, Friesen Nichols, they also have project managers that are overseeing their side of it. We haven't had anyone on our side that goes out and confirms what's taking place. So some of the issues that we have, we call that sublet, some of we have with safe routes for schools.
Correct.
This position ultimately is helping Christian. So in the past, Christian and Stan has filled that role. But we have, to Navarre's point, a lot of projects that's taking place that we may have, could have done a better job at.
So this will hopefully eliminate those misses in between the
That's correct.
projects.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's not just for major projects. There's other projects that are taking place that are not to that level. It's not a $2 or $3, $4 million project. It could be, for instance, as you go through here, where we're going to have projects with replacing concrete panels. Those are small projects. Those were Friesen Nichols or Shield, Westwood. None of those will be on site doing those. That will be strictly coming from us to manage that project.
Okay.
I think it's a needed position, especially when you look at the road survey that we did last year and starting to plan that out as well with some of the other budgetary assets that have been coming in. So between that and the grant writer, I think those are two positive steps on the personnel side.
I think I'm excited for that position too, where we have somebody that's going to champion us on these projects. We've had a couple misunderstandings with apartment complexes, projects and things like that. And I think if we have somebody that was working for us championing with Friesen Nichols, and I just feel like we've had some miscommunication in the past, even with the bridge. And I'm hoping that this position will kind of smooth that out a little bit.
Yeah, and just to add to that, on the public works,
It's my ego.
on the public works, the line item there for street maintenance, it is almost doubling, which I think is a good thing. That certainly is always a complaint around the city, so this will start to help improve some of that. Although when you look at the list of projects that that's for, it's relatively small, but it is an increase nonetheless.
I'm also excited about the lighting. That's been an expensive kind of thing that we've ignored around here for way too long because it's way too expensive to put some street lights. I think, between city council and Christian, they found a solution that was way cheaper. And I understand even Christian today installed some of these test lamps around town as well in Spring Branch. So I think I'm really excited that there's even a budget that we can knock out several streets at the same time cheaply.
City manager, should we talk about the lift on here or not?
The lift is on here.
Or we beat that to death? All right.
I did want to discuss, and Daryl and you and I talked about this a little bit, the $100,000 to clean out the bridge. That's a brand-new bridge. It's really hard for me to swallow. I've, joked about getting the fire department out and spraying it out. And I understand we've had some record rain the last couple of years as well. I just want to make sure that if we do something like this, that we take preventative measures to where every 2 years we're not spending $100,000 to clear out a bunch of mud under one of our bridges.
I do want to point out that's actually in the stormwater fund. That's not in the page that's in front of you right now.
Yes. It's the shock sticker of it all. It's not like it's a 20-year bridge that we're cleaning out, which is understandable. It's a 2-year-old bridge.
Yeah, but the situation you got to look at, look what's right beside the creek, that's above the creek. It's nothing but the racetrack, and all they do is have dirt that flows into the creek, so that's why it does that. So I don't know if there's any way we can put hay bales or something till we get grass growing there.
No, but maybe an
That'll
ongoing.
keep that sand from washing down in it.
And I know our boys have a lot to do around town. I mean, you can see it during the summer for mowing, but maybe some annual maintenance to try to be preventative, just even a check. I mean, we can get the mayor out there with the shovel. That'll be cheaper, I think. Just give them some Rangers games going at the same time.
So I'm on 51 for non-departmental. Okay, we will move out of the general fund into debt service. And debt service, it's,
Oh, sorry, Director Horton.
go ahead.
Back on page 51 for the non-departmental,
yes, sir.
the functional grant, can we elaborate on that just for a moment? Because that wasn't something that,
That's the 380 agreement with Quick Roofing.
okay, that's
QR
that's
purchasing.
incoming funds, not
Well, we,
moving money from one pot, from one account to another. Is that what that is?
this is the actual grant piece that to Quick Roofing and QR purchasing. So if you remember, there's really like three elements of sales tax. We have the general fund element, the portion to reduce property tax, and the portion that goes to EDC. The latter two portions, the EDC and the property tax, those cannot be touched. But the actual grant piece comes almost like a return of the sales tax through the general fund.
Right. Thank you.
Yes, sir. One other change, and this was on the staff report. When you look down, and I'll get to this when we go to the capital replacement fund, but you'll see $80,000 in the transfer out. We're looking to build our balance in the capital replacement fund and purchase vehicles out of that fund. That's currently used to pay enterprise for rentals. But when it comes to essentially passenger-style vehicles, we'll look to have a long-term funding plan through the capital replacement fund rather than using the general fund. So with debt service, this is one of those that we don't have a whole lot of flexibility with. We do have a slightly larger debt load for 26 than 25. So stormwater, this is the fund that's housing right here, the special services, that includes the bridge cleanout that we previously discussed. So water sewer, Councilman Gary, one thing to point out, just with the way, and this is just really an accounting treatment, so we recognize revenue on bonds as we spend the bond money. So I'm on page 60. In our revenue, we see 2023 CO Series A, we're showing a budget revenue of 7.7 million, projected of 3. When you go to the very next page in our capital projects, which is actually 2 pages, if you go to page 62, you'll see sewer line installation. Here's their 7 million, and then the 3 and 11. So that's when you see some of the fluctuations. Also for you, Councilman Glover, when you see some of the fluctuations on revenue and expense, these are really large numbers that drive. A lot of that, we budgeted to spend 7.7, we're only going to spend 3. So that's 4 million less. And then for FY26, we plan on really bringing that project home with the 11. So that's some of the up and down, or a lot of it is just in this one fund by itself.
So Director Horton, before we move on from page 60 here, one thing I noticed in a lot of the funds is they've got an investment income section, and this one's large because of all the bonds that are currently sitting in the investment account. Looking down the road, as we start to wrap up some of these projects and really start to spend this money, the bond money itself on the project, that investment income will come down. And some of this is substantial, like this is almost $1 million here, I think, projected for FY25. Down the road, will we need to start factoring that in, or do you anticipate other bonds being issued to kind of make it the difference and us continuing to collect the investment income from future bonds?
If we have bonds, we'll collect as much investment income off them as we can. But to your point, yes, as our cash balance in this fund dwindles in essence, we will see a reduction in the investment income. So that's something that we'll have to consider, especially for 27 when we're looking to complete our interceptor project. we'll have significantly less investment revenue just because we won't have the cash balance to support a lot of that. Now, if we do get to the point where we issue another water sewer bond, the investment income would go up at that point. But yes, in '27, I would be surprised if we had investment income that would really move the needle at all.
Back on page 13, I don't want you to move the mouse, but if you recall, there's a pie graph there that says revenue by source. Which of the, do you recall which pie slice the investment income sits in? Is that grants and contributions?
It's,
I'm just kind of curious, how big of a piece of the pie is our investment income?
investments in that all other, so it's in that 3%. But this is only for the general fund. Fund 13 is only for the general fund, so that's
Okay.
not citywide, and that doesn't touch any other fund. That's just the general fund in isolation.
Got it. Don't have to be in this budget, but down the road, that might be an interesting metric to look at. How much investment income spread across all the funds, and then how much of that could evaporate if we spend those bond dollars.
It gets interesting because each fund, if you think of it's like we have an investment plan, and then each fund buys a share of plan by its dollars. So even if we spend out all of our bond money, our general fund investment income could stay exactly the same. And same with all of the other funds, the investment income would only impact the funds that we spent money out of. So it would only be, in this case, water, sewer, and our capital bond fund, but all of the other funds would keep the same percentage as long as we kept a consistent reserve in those funds.
Jonathan?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Orton, sorry.
John's fine.
On page 61, I think we're around here because I think you skipped from 60, 62. Going to the interlocal agreement, City of Arlington there, special services, I guess we budgeted about 25. I guess we spent 175 in 2014. Now went to 250. Did something change there? Did we get a charge from them, or did we cut short on something this past year, or maybe a project was going on or something special? Because it doesn't change the main number, total utility operations, only by, a couple $100,000, but I was just wondering. Line 4 down under Fund 10.
So this one,
Special services?
Yeah.
this one.
So I was just wondering, you said not 100%, that just sticks out to me.
No, I was looking at the wrong one.
Sorry. I'd assume that's just something that's required, I guess, right?
Yeah, offhand, I don't have any notes on that directly.
Okay.
Well,
I was just basing it, we have a projection of 240, so 250 was more in line with the projection than the previous budget.
Yeah.
So that increase, of course, to Councilman Glover's question earlier, all those percentage change, it's based on the budget, not the projection. So that specific number was based on the FY25 projection.
Yeah, okay.
we can go back and see what the difference, we actually only budgeted 25,000 for this,
Okay,
but the year before was at 175.
okay. I get it now, yeah. Just those percentages
Yeah.
don't.
Well, there is a big swing there, no doubt.
Okay,
I mean, they're starting with a budget shortfall in '25 of 215,000.
On that one item, yes.
Be curious to know what to.
I don't know offhand.
Yeah, well,
Well, I think it's, I can't remember the program, but it's the basic, I believe it was the,
Oh, the SCADA,
SCADA.
yeah, that's right.
was the computer software that reads
yeah.
all the data.
Controls all the. all
I
our-
believe that was the cost
Okay.
with it.
Yes.
We had to bring that back to you guys mid-year for that.
I remember, okay.
And water impact, we actually Don't have any expenditures planned in that one. Same with sewer impact. Capital projects, that's the fund that we get revenue from landfill, visits to the landfill. Generally expenditures related to debt service. So moving on to capital bond, you can see some other variances when you look at our projects, and the accounts are the TBD parks and the public safety remodel. You can see what we expect or what we budgeted to spend in '25 versus our projection, and then looking into '26. So we're taking our '25, most of that, and then pushing it over into '26, except for the public safety remodel that we're splitting right down the middle between the 2 years. And if you'll notice, Councilman Glover, our investment income, that top line, you can see we reduced it pretty significantly for '26 based on the projected spend. Our park dedication, the expense there, the 160, that's for a new playground at Rogers Farm Park. This is page 77. Library buildings, revenue only. Roadway impact, so we actually have $200,000 in street maintenance. That is for a Hilltop Drive overlay. So the TIF, do we have any questions on our TIF? All right. Hot tax, we're doing another 20,000 budget for our barbecue showdown. Next fund is a police seizure fund. I'll go quicker on the smaller funds. Leo's fund is after that. Fund 35 is disaster recovery. This is all ARPA money through the CARES Act. We had to have all of our remaining balance dedicated to projects by 12/31, which we were able to complete. We do have our water tank that you can see behind the high school right now, and also our elevated storage tank. Both projects will be completed by the end of next calendar year. They have to be, or we have to give the funding back, so we will find a way to make that work. Capital replacement, this is a fund I mentioned that we've been using for enterprise. Almost all, if not all, those vehicles will fall off of the lease before the end of FY '26, at which time we'll purchase each vehicle. It's between $400 and $410 a vehicle. We will keep and Mr. Hull and I will come up with a number that we'll present in later fiscal years where it'll just be a flat transfer every year that we'll then use to purchase vehicles and keep our fleet fresh. For '26, the purchase that we have is $80,000 for a police vehicle, and that's the difference in the FY '25 budgeted transfer and the FY '26 budgeted transfer from the general fund. One of the benefits from an accounting standpoint of doing this is when a department goes back and looks at what its cost of operations really was. When we pull the capital cost out of it, we can see what more of a day-to-day activity looks like. So court security, I mentioned I mentioned on our staff report, Court Security Fund and the Court Technology Fund will eventually go away and move into a combined fund that I have not built into this particular spreadsheet, but in May was the effective date. So when we spend the balance down on court security and court technology, both of those funds will go away and that activity will be reported through the new combined fund. And the number of that fund will be 19. It's court security and court technology, and then local youth diversion fund. These three are all related to our court system. Next fund, grants. So really, same as 25. We haven't budgeted any grants for 26 because we don't know for sure that we have anything in the pipeline as those come up. Police and fire tend to be brought to the council, but this fund is designed to have a zero balance over time. And here's our park recovery and other donation funds. We're looking 8,000 in police donation use, and then 1,500 to support our Bark in the Park event. Tree reforestation, this one's growing and growing, and we don't have an expectation in 26 to go reforest the city quite yet.
Sorry, Director Horton.
No,
Back
go.
on Fund 40 grants, quick question.
Yep.
The grant fund that supplies fire, FY25 budget is zero on there, but we're projecting to spend $657,000. Is that accurate?
If you go down, you can see our fire department grant and grant funded supplies, those net to zero. So at the beginning of the fiscal year, we didn't, like right now, we don't know if we're going to have a grant. We don't have any in the pipeline today for FY26, but throughout the year, we apply for grants, and as they become available, we take advantage of those and try to spend the funds at that time.
Okay, so said differently, we're now projecting we'll have $657,000 in grant money for the fire department that was unbudgeted. So income coming in that we didn't plan for.
We didn't budget for it, but we applied for it and received it.
It's a good story to tell.
It is. It's hard for us to budget unless.
Can't budget for a grant, but.
Yeah, there's a standard of being able to budget revenue, and there's likelihood and other factors that go into it. And right now, we don't have anything that really hits any of those boxes.
Sure, I'm just saying it would be good to hear how that was, where it was spent, things like that. But thank you for clarifying.
So Daryl, this might be a question for Daryl or for Brad, for Mr. Horton. So looking at the grant thing here, talking about the fire department, we applied for we're granted $648,657 for next year is what we're hoping to get, or hoping to apply for and get. The grant writer that we're putting in the budget, what is that, a contract employee, $50,000? Would any of these other ones increase because of that hire? Do we just not want to estimate that that's going to have an effect on this at all, or put any goals out there that it'll happen?
I would love to come in and I'd rather be a little bit more conservative about it and indicate, once we, obviously it's not going to happen to October, November, once we get them in. We'll have to do evaluations, project what we're looking for, what we're wanting to accomplish out of it. We're probably going to be more into February, March by the time we get
Halfway
that
through the
done.
year? Okay.
Then going through the application process, I don't see that we'll see any funding until next October or beyond. Most grants are due in February, with the idea that you're getting a return sometime between September and December. And then by the time the funds are available, you're getting the funds in January or February.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, so far, we vetted 3 different organizations to contract grants with, and they all, to just expand a bit on what Mr. Hull was saying, all of them have the same basic system where you meet with them and get almost like a detailed checklist. What do you want grant funding for? They go out and find programs that match the needs. Then we come together and say, we want to apply for this series. Then they apply, and then, actually getting awarded and receiving, that's a pretty lengthy process. Right, folks, so we are, by my count, on to the EDC. Page 98.
I guess I'll summarize too some of the EDC notes from our last EDC meeting. We reduced the functional grant by half, so we cut that from 250, I think, to 125 is what we're going down to now. And then we're also proposing well, I'll let Mr. Hull speak to the building maintenance line item. But the functional grant reduction helps offset the cost of said lift that we spent so much time discussing. Mr. Hull, do you want to cover the building maintenance topic?
Yeah, on the building maintenance, obviously that's here at City Hall, so we're projecting to come in, we need a repaint. Obviously, it's a portion of it, it's not, EDC is not funding the whole project, but it's for us to come in, restain some of the woodwork that we have, paint, carpet, things of that nature, just updating the building as a whole for building maintenance. And we also have funding in our current budget to get some of this accomplished as well. We're just trying to update the building that has not been done in quite a while.
So you're referencing the first line under, I guess that's 5403, I guess?
Yeah, gentlemen, there are two different building maintenance lines. There's one
Yeah.
that's 54030601, and then further down the page, there's 54035323.
Yeah, the one goes from 50 to 600.
5323, that's related to the Dollar General space.
Okay, I was
And then
making sure.
0601 is what Mr. Hull's referring to at City Hall.
Wanted to come clarify that because.
Yeah, I was a little surprised too when he started talking about staining in here. I was like, pretty sure that's
600
for
grand.
the Dollar
Okay.
General. So maybe that, I'm sorry. The 5323 account number is the one I was punting to the city manager to explain the
Yeah.
1100% increase there.
I don't care about.
At one point, I would like to go into executive session to have that discussion, then once I have a discussion as a whole with the city attorney, then we can come out and have a better discussion regarding the remodel of Dollar General.
Just for a question, and I'm all for the lift and split it up, I'm fine with that, but on the EDC part, outside of having to rent something for hometown Christmas, what other events or issue, what other things is the EDC gonna be able to use the lift for? The butterfly or, lights, stuff like that?
Yeah,
or what?
it could be streetlights. That, in a sense, when you talk about the EDC, there's a lot of things that can be used for. Even though it's city services, it still brings the economic development side to it. And I use lighting, for example. You come in and you have an intersection that has no lighting. Well, we come in, we put lighting, it can also light up businesses. There's a lot of factors that come in. Although, yes, it's a true city benefit, but it's also a benefit to the economic development of the community as a whole, including our town center, including not only our events that we have, that we run them on a regular basis. Obviously, Hometown Christmas is one of them. I'll give you an example. Just this past weekend, we had a storm that came through. We had a lot of trees down. We could have utilized a lift for that. We had to take down 3 trees here in City Hall. We could have utilized a lift for that.
Oh, no, the lift, I agree with having that. So we don't have to go down to Reynolds Top and rent it for 5 or 10 grand a couple times a year, whatever. I was just thinking outside of Hometown Chris, EDC, I guess it's just taking 75 grand from the EDC and helping the public works group, right? Pretty much.
Part of the thing is that we don't have it, so we want to rent it for certain things. If we have it, it opens up doors of possibilities of things that we can utilize it because we have it now. One instance I could think of off the top of my head is we can actually put little flags on all our poles out here for events. But there's like 40 of them, if I recall, which is kind of a pain in the butt with a ladder. So this will allow EDC, for example, to utilize marketing material and utilizing those poles that we rarely
Okay. That's what I was thinking to do.
Your answer, yes.
Okay, that's fine.
The final funds, the EDC bond reserve, we don't touch this fund short of letting it grow. That concludes my presentation. I will stay for questions.
I do want to make a couple of comments in reference to the budget as a whole. With that, if you can go back to page 12, which is pretty much the overview between the revenues and expenditures. Sorry, I thought it was on. So if you'll go down on page 12 to the net change in fund balance, you're going to see a negative balance of $786,352. That is currently what we're over budget. So with that over budget concept is it's a normal budgeting. We've done it for the last four years that we're here. However, with that said, I have a little bit of concern. So I like to have the conversation with the council as a whole of how we can bring that down. With that, everything we presented to this point, including the lift, different projects, the project manager, the lighting, things of that nature, I would ask your help to help me drop it roughly $200,000. On the average for the last four budgets we have presented, and to Mr. Horton's point, generally we have anywhere from $700,000 to $800,000 savings each year based off of personnel, projects not going through, whatever the case might be. That has been a pretty good norm as we go through. I'd rather not have that high of a number. I'm more comfortable around the 500,000 mark. So I would ask for your help. If there's some projects that you truly see that you want to make to move forward, I want to keep those in. I don't want to go away from tonight, then I come back on the 19th for approval, then I have knocked some of the projects out that you may want to see move forward. So what I'm asking, we're going to go through a list that some of these projects I'm anticipating may be cutting. If it's something that you do not want cut, please let me know. That way we can look at a different way of where we can cut some of these fundings that we can feel more comfortable with what we're presenting. First, also want to address that in this current budget, we have a 1.4 cent decrease in our tax rate. So we have made a movement to make the tax rate less. So we're presenting a 0.69250 tax rate. We're currently at 0.7069 or 619, I'm sorry. So roughly that 1.4 number is coming in roughly about 180,000. I'm sorry, 170,000.
Yeah, 169,996, 170,000.
I would like to continue with that concept, to leave that tax rate cut in the budget. I think we've been working really hard for the last couple of years, and we have not had a decrease in our tax rate. I think we have the opportunity to be able to have that savings citywide for all our communities, business owners across the board. With that, I feel like we still need to cut some of the others. Some of that may be a grant consultant, which is roughly 50,000. We have the library with our RFID with the 20. The project manager is roughly 112,000. Streetlights we have for additional for this budget for 50,000. The lift is $134,000 total. For a general budget, we're looking at roughly at $70,000. And a PD patrol unit, which is roughly $80,000. It's budgeted at $80,000. Now, with those said, is any of them just blaring out to you saying, you know what, we can wait till next year, or we can reevaluate as we get into the budget and make sure where we're at?
I know for me, I want to keep the RDIF for the library. That's been kicked down the road for so long. We're kind of behind the curve, and I don't expect in the future we'll get something major from the library, because they'll be pretty much moving where they are projecting. So I would like to keep that one in at the very least. I'd also like to keep in the streetlights, because I think that's something that I know we're testing right now, but we need to continue to test it to see if it's viable as something for the future, for future savings for new streets or et cetera.
Yeah, so I guess in terms of what to keep, grant writer stays. In my opinion, we keep the grant writer because that pays for itself. I like the project manager. I did. What did you say the number was for the project manager? I'm sorry, Mr. Hall.
Roughly $112,000.
That's the FTE.
That is for salary, benefits.
So it's FTEs, not contract.
Whole thing.
Yeah. Which you kind of need in that role. You need someone who's just embedded with the staff. Question, in this go anyone, including Director Horton. In the past, and we touched on this earlier, we had our budget for FY25. The budget was almost $44 million. We're only projected to spend just shy of $32 million right now, according to the projections. The FY26 budget is $46.5 million. Do we really think we're going to hit that $700,000 shortfall?
We're talking about a couple different things, because whenever you're saying the 46 million, that's the city as a whole. Mm-hmm. The $780,000 shortfall is just the general fund individually.
Fair enough. So even with that being said, there's a budget right now. The general fund is a budget of $12.9 million, projected to be $12.1 million. So it should have a rollover. Was that the right term? 800,000, give or take? Yeah. So even with the 800,000 being carried over from the general fund from 25 to 26, we're still coming up 700,000 short?
No, that's including that. So our reserve, everything stays the same. So that.
Well, not the reserve, I'm sorry. No, we had a projected budget in 25 for the general fund of 12.9 million. I'm sorry, right, so I used two words in those. We had a budget amount of 12.9 million for 25. We're projecting to spend now 12.1 million for 25. Do we have a rollover?
We will.
It's not, the way it works is the money goes into the reserve at that point. So that's why you see at the bottom, our days of fund balance, our budget was 86 and we're showing 134. So all of that, any funds that we don't spend goes down into the reserve. Then it makes it available to spend in the future.
In other words, our expenditures stay the same. The savings that we're talking about, we put into our reserve. That's over the years, that's how we have increased from honestly about 11% to where the last couple of years we have had a standard of 25%, and we have continued to that. And I want to continue that this year as well.
So you don't want to cover the 7 from the reserve then?
The what?
You don't want to cover the 7 or 2 from the 7 from the reserve fund?
That's correct.
Okay. Then a question that has some funding source questions, and I was going to bring this up, and maybe it'll help Mr. Hall. On page 80, Director Horton, there's a capital request form for $200,000, but it says it's a public works capital request, expected cost $200,000. It just says multiple funding sources. Do we know what those funding sources are?
Well, that's coming out of the street maintenance. That's where you see that 180,000. It's also coming out of the street impact fund.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all coming out of the roadway impact fund. So what you're seeing is really just a shortfall in the form that I created. Then I have general fund. Well, it's not the general fund because it's the roadway impact fund. It's not a grant or award. It's not a bond or debt. So the only other choice is multiple. I need to create a better form is really what it comes down to.
Sorry for calling that out.
That's okay.
Also, let me say to that point, As you can tell, I did not take any of our infrastructure projects out at all that could be hitting for our general fund. Obviously, for the last several years, some of our goals were, one, our infrastructure, dealing not only with water and sewer, but our streets. And I feel like we were bringing that here with a tax rate drop.
Right. And I think we want to leave the infrastructure alone. What about the bridge clean out that was mentioned earlier? That was $200,000.
Yeah, that's out of the stormwater.
Still not the general fund. Got it.
And that's out
Okay.
of the Stormwater Fund, Fund 7.
All right, so from the original list, Mr. Holt, that you said things we could cut, what's left after we've all said what we don't want to cut?
The police car, the lift, those two equal about 200,000 right there, even although we're splitting the lift.
I'd like to keep the streetlights in too. I think that's something our citizens are.
And with that said, I have also met with Encore to hopefully be able to help us move forward with more lighting as well. Obviously, there's still a cost associated with it, but with the communications I've had with them in person and on the phone, we may be able to do a little bit more than what we have done with Encore's help.
So what's left? Sorry, I still didn't hear that. We said streetlights, RFID tags. the same.
We're also, we're budgeted for the retiree insurance that we talked about last month. That's roughly 13,000. It's minor, but it's still there.
Might move the needle much.
The admin part-time, which is 10,000, which is helping us go digital. That's another savings. And the PD patrol unit and the lift. So even with the lift and the PD, that's 150,000, so we're down to 600,000. I feel more comfortable with that. That's been our norm, and even with the projects that we're talking about, employment, we have openings now. Obviously, our public safety is one of our highest personnel status. The projections over the last 30 years is that we're going to have more openings in that position. Also, they're the highest paid positions as well. For us to hit a $600,000, our projections have been accurate so far. And in addition to speak even beyond that, what we're projecting that we're going to have in the next year, as far as economics, I really don't see it. I just don't want to have a deficit in that manner. I'm not necessarily concerned about making it up, but I don't like the projection of it.
So what I hear you saying is we're going to lose the lift. After all that
I
discussion.
can assure you, our conversations, I don't want to lose the lift.
I know, but I don't think there's much left to cut.
It's not, and unfortunately, if we lose it, then we'll.
Well, like David said, you don't leave us many options to cut, because the only other option is to raise it back, take away the 1% decrease in tax, which covers
Well,
a big portion of that.
And to that point as well, for a little bit of savings, and if you're willing, I know I brought a 1.4 cent decrease. That 0.4 of a cent actually has value around 36,000. That is a significant amount as well. If we want to stay with a 1 cent decrease at minimum, it is a possibility. It is 36,000.
If we didn't reduce it, we kept it flat, the property tax rate, would that make it the shortfall?
That'd be a $170,000 increase in revenue with a flat tax rate from what we've presented tonight.
And just to put it in perspective, it's like $100 per household kind of thing.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking if we don't reduce taxes, we just keep them the same, that's also a good thing.
Yeah, to the point, yes, it is minimum. However, I think psychologically, it's
Sure, yeah, if we can lower by a cent, that's great too, but if we're scales it.
I totally agree. I put some value in the 1 cent. I truly would love to do the 1.4, or I wouldn't have presented it. But I think a 1 cent is needed.
It's not nothing. Mayor Pro Tem, I think, had a comment too. The lift is coming out of two different funds, general and EDC, so cutting that doesn't really get us there either, does it? Because only half of it's coming out of the general fund.
Right, and it could, obviously, it's a $137,000 piece of equipment. So we're roughly saving 70,000 out of general fund and 70,000 out of the EDC in that manner.
Is EDC in the general fund too?
No, but we're utilizing 70,000 for that fund. I'm just indicating it's going to give us a savings in the EDC when we go in to talk to the city attorney. Just indicating there's 70,000 there as well.
I'm going to join Mr. Glover about not getting rid of at least hiring a company for the bonds, because at the very least, if we cut, let's say, the lift, we can get that company to go find a bond for the lift. So I would like to, the grant writer. I'd like to keep whatever process we choose on that in it, because we can make it up some of the stuff we cut.
Yeah.
Would actually save some money on our rental fees too, because we wouldn't be renting a lift.
I'm with you 100%. I'm still keeping the lift.
Yeah.
All right, so going back to the project manager then, because that's the other big line item number that can be cut.
Which one? I'm sorry?
Project manager, not the grant.
Project manager, yeah.
Manager. We're at 110 with that. And if we cut that headcount.
Again, so many projects going on right now.
I completely agree.
And small and big, and future ones.
It's hard to quantify how much they would save, but I think that it would be, there are some potential savings down the road there with that role. But again, if we're trying to make a number balance, that's an easy, that and a police car and you're there. But I know the chief asked for the new car last year, and I think that got cut.
No, you did it last year, I believe.
But he's on a plan, though, to recycle each one
Correct.
year over year over year. We're just kicking the can down the road now.
Yeah, his oldest one was like 10 years old or whatever, if I remember.
Well, and we're also, and I truly don't want to speak out of turn with it, but we also know on our medical side for our insurance, we're budgeted for 5% increase. We know that we're setting that at a minimum of a 3% increase. With the idea that we can negotiate down to basically a wash, come in at zero. With that, it will give us roughly a $56,000 savings. Unfortunately, we just don't have that number yet from our consultants. I feel confident in it. One, that we know we're going to look at $25,000 savings with a hope that we have $56,000. With that's roughly giving us $120,000, and that's knocking the retiree insurance off, the patrol vehicle, and the $25,000 for medical insurance, which is $118,000, which is getting us a little bit closer. So if we have roughly somewhere around 80,000, and that could be the lift.
To kind of piggyback off what Councilman Glover said earlier about the PD car, or the PD vehicle, if I remember correctly, last year in the budget, and I haven't gone back and watched it, but I think we took a lot of stuff away from the police department last year. If I remember correctly, they kind of compared to our other emergency group. So that's something I'd like to try to keep if we can, but.
If I recall, he hired a new officers, like a couple of new positions, some police cruisers, and then everything else came out of a bond that he got, correct? I've got several years in my head.
Only personnel that came was the captain on the fire side. No personnel came in on the public safety. A vehicle was awarded.
Last year he proposed 2 vehicles and we only approved 1.
One. but no personnel was added. 2 years.
So is this something that, I mean, maybe the council could reach out to you in the next few weeks and maybe
Yeah,
is it something
absolutely.
we have to decide right now? Because I
And-
think,
No, I just wanted some feedback more than anything. At one point, obviously, on the 19th, we're looking to approve the budget. The tax revenues, everything is in. Only thing we do not have is the health insurance. With that, if we have the savings of $156,000, at that point, we're looking about $150,000 savings, which it's going to put us around the 600,000 mark. I do feel comfortable with that. I just don't want to have an increased deficit that's hanging over. I do believe we have the revenue that will be coming in to cover it. However, I do not want year after year that we're having that same challenge.
So
That's what I'm trying to prevent.
let's take the hypothetical, let's take the police car out of the mix. If we are in May doing really well and we have that, we can always bring it back for an amended budget.
Oh,
to
absolutely.
Purchase the police car later on.
Yes, absolutely. And that could be with any of it.
Yeah.
Uh,
So again, I think if you consider, well, first, build your basis, go find the insurance and see what that is, where that is. Consider the 0.25% as well, your 30 grand as a fluff. And then from there, it's the lift and police car, it sounds like, are the ones that nobody's really hammering besides Mr. Gary for the police car. But at least that's something that you can withdraw now that can be brought back to us come spring as amended when we get closer to our end of year budget. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely.
Good.
Mr. Horton, just to confirm too, sorry, the beginning of the session, you mentioned about the no new tax revenue going down about 50 grand. I think it was, right, from 106 to 58, about 40. Does that affect this at all? No. That has nothing to do with
It impacts the disclosures that we have to release, but as far as
this.
the numbers that are in front of you,
No.
I have to fix that page 2 disclosure that we talked about, but it won't impact the numbers.
Just want to make sure that 40-something grand wasn't coming off this.
No, it's a comparison point.
Okay.
That's really all it serves for.
Okay, just want to make sure. Thank you.
anything else?
Just one more. So would everyone feel comfortable with just a 1 cent decrease?
I'm fine with that. I'm kind of with Mr. Glover about, making sure that we don't have to increase it next year or the year after or future councils when we're starting to get stuff done. But I know we're catching up on a lot of that stuff as well that we've been ignoring. But we've always said that when that sales tax increases, that we're going to decrease property tax, even if it's minuscule. And that's happened. So we need to start fulfilling up this, not only our promises, but previous promises to the public on that, even if it's just, a penny.
No, you're spot on. I think you look at the amount of inflation we've had over the last 5 years, the fact that we haven't raised taxes is impressive and speaks to the fact that sales tax revenue is offsetting the property tax revenue. So it's just, it's a story we need to tell more and tell it better. John's pulled or Dr. Horton's pulled up the property tax page again.
Well, one thing we've been able to do, we've been able to look at our own numbers, our own projections for the last 4 years. So we have been extremely conservative as we move forward with our sales tax. And one of the things you'll see is that I believe last year was at 21% of our revenue coming in from sales tax. And now we're hitting at 27%. So we added 300,000 from that, and it's based off the numbers that we have been seeing from our numbers, from our budgets that we're doing. One, not before COVID, it's COVID and beyond. So we feel comfortable with that. That's the reason why, one, you see a decrease in the tax rate and obviously the increase in sales tax. And we're still projecting to have even a better year next year and the year after as we get more of the projects that on the EDC side, 380 agreements that are finally coming to fruition. We're going to see an even better increase in the next 2 years. on the 770,000, I just don't want, I hate to say a habit, but I don't want to continue to, over the last 4 years, we continue to have a little bit more, and I don't want to get into that pattern of doing so. I'm okay, and John feels safe about it. I do as well. I just don't want it to become a pattern.
So Chief Hogan has stepped away, but I'd like to get his input on just what, it'd have to be tonight, but if we do pause the new cruiser, that could be one of the first things we ask the grant writer for going out finding a grant for. And that would help to offset that as well.
That's the number one goal. So there's a lot of funding that's available through COG for vehicles. One of them's electric vehicles. And that will be one of the first tasks we do.
Cybertrucking for the Kennedale PD. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Personally, I'm not impressed with electric vehicles, but it's also an opportunity for a lot of things that we can utilize them for. I don't know if patrol is one of them, but we also have a lot of administrative things that we can utilize those vehicles for, and it'll be a bonus. And it's grant money, and we have vehicles that can fill a need.
And I'll say it, I'm actually kind of comfortable with the projected deficit, because I've seen us work around that before, and I know when we're privy to future projects that are possibilities for this town. But it's your budget, and I want you to sleep well at night. So, I just want to throw that out there. I'm fine with the way it is as well, with the 1.25% decrease on taxes and a projected deficit of 700.
So if there are no other comments, I will entertain a motion. I'm sure we probably need to take a quick break, but I guess we can go ahead and move into executive session. So if we could have a motion in accordance with Chapter 551, Section .072, Section .071, Section .074 to go into executive session.
Mr. Mayor, I so do motion.
Do you have a second? All in favor? And for the record, all opposed with a like sign. The motion passes unanimously. It is 8 p.m. and we're going to go into executive session.